Hi, everyone. Welcome back. How are we today? Hope you guys had a great Memorial Day holiday weekend. Yes? And you're back at it. Welcome to week 4. Congratulations on making it this far. Yay. So folks, I first would like to thank you all for coming back. I know that we feed you, so maybe that's the reason that you guys come back. I'm not really sure. No, I'm joking. I want to hear what you guys thought about the panel last week. So anyone who wants to share some of their thoughts from last week. Who's going to be shy? You know I won't let you be shy, right?
Nah, I ain't gonna be shy. I'm an ex-artist.
I
can't be shy. Honestly, I liked it. I really think that for me, I took a lot out of it. Like, I mean, the joking and all that was fun, but it's the information that I got from it. Like, it was real informative. The only thing that we didn't really fully cover was the branding. That's the thing that I wanted to really get into, see about the main branding, like as far as your the federal trademark and that type of stuff.
Okay. Danielle, I believe, talked about that. Am I correct? She's the one who addressed a lot of that. Mm-hmm. So to your point, I have a list of questions that I'm going to send out. I just need to kind of divide them up on who I think would be able to best handle those questions. Do you want to shoot me an email with your questions specifically, and then I could get them out?
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, that's cool.
When you say branding, do you mean how to market yourself, or more around the legalities of protecting yourself?
Both actually, because go ahead.
There's an entire marketing week,
Mm-hmm.
right, that will talk through how to market yourself individually, how to market your business, and how to really have that brand presence. So you will get that side of it next week, maybe.
2 weeks.
Yeah.
Okay.
There's some specifics around needing more defined understanding on how to legally protect your brand and your name, etc. That's absolutely something we could have.
Yeah, that's why I said I wanted to get a little more on that topic, because we just briefly touched it. Like, I mean, I'm technically protected, but that's just in the state. I want to be protected everywhere, because I mean, it's a lot of different. Like, even with every business in here, I'm sure it's something similar to it, or a name similar to theirs. You know what I'm saying? So everybody's definitely going to need to protect themselves, especially when it comes to branding. Like, you gonna want that. If not, you doing the business for nothing. Because you can put all these years and hard work in, and somebody come right in and steal your everything. You know what I mean? Like,
Absolutely true. But yeah, if you have specifics, go ahead and send them to me. You know I send you guys out your weekly email.
Yeah.
Send them, reply,
Okay.
whatever. You have all of my information.
Right.
Feel free, reach out. But that's a great point. I wish that we could have had them for, a lot longer. I know that it was an amazing session. It really was. One more.
What I like about last week was that they broke down mentorship, sponsorship, and coaches. So I definitely did like that. It helped me get a different perspective, and also too, like how to build our team. Like they called it the A team, and then the B team. So I definitely did like that. And also too, they were just more so engaged in us. They kept us laughing, and it really helped me feel better that when she asked us about what are we doing, she wanted to hear our businesses. I love stuff like that because she was really concerned, like she wanted to hear our ideas and things like that. But it also stuck out when I said mine. One of the panelists, I guess his wife came to me. So it made me feel comfortable. I mean, even though I'm coming to these classes and every Wednesday I feel positive and so strong about my business. But when I go home,
That's so awesome.
I go home and I'm like, I want to quit. But I'm at this spurt now where it's where I'm at a low. But I'm just like, this class motivates me. So yes, last week I went home with a smile on my, and I've been smiling ever since. Because I'm just like, oh, I want to give up on my business. But then I'm like, I got these notes and I'm like, I forgot his name, the one with the bald head. Forgive me with the recording.
Andre?
Yes.
Andre Campbell?
Yes.
The one who called me the B team? Is that who you're referring
Yes.
to? Okay, yeah.
Yes, he broke it down and said what he do. Now, no, I'm not getting up at 5 o'clock in the morning, but I do get up, get my daughter ready for school, put on a podcast, and I go take my dog for a walk. I can walk her to school instead of getting in the car and driving. I walk her to school, have us time, but then after that, I still take a different detour downtown with me and my dog. So it's just something that. Right now, I took my business full time. I'm at home, sit on the couch. So I figured that was some motivation too, that he gave a different schedule. And I'm like, let me just try that. So the podcast, I started listening to the podcast. I got to get used to it. So it was definitely, it was positive. I love that.
I love that. Thank you for sharing. And we can share more. I think a couple other people had their hands up, but I don't want to cut Joe's deck short. And I just wanted to see you guys were so engaged last week. It was so awesome. Kind of makes it less scary of having all of those financial professionals in front of you, but you guys being nervous, what to say if you were one-on-one. And, a big part of that is getting yourself more comfortable. They're people, right? They put on their pants the same way that we do. So don't be afraid to ask them questions. I believe that they also said to reach out directly to them as well. So keep that in mind. You can do that. I know Danielle is very quick to respond on LinkedIn. So if you are not on LinkedIn, I highly recommend it to at least get a profile set up. You get a lot of traction on LinkedIn. I have a lot of people that connect with me on LinkedIn just because they see that I'm a banker and I'm in commercial or business banking. So definitely create that profile, but it's a good way to communicate because it's like a messaging system, more professional than like a Facebook or Instagram or one of those. They were so engaging last week, and I felt like you guys were not afraid to address them and ask them those questions. Feel free, reach out. Someone who just walked in and said, I'm my walking brand. I thought it was you, and you didn't mention it. Be your walking brands and start those different habits to get yourself a little bit out of your comfort zone. I love to hear how excited you are to come in here and when you feel positive. That's the point though, take it home with you. Take a look at all the notes that you were able to gain from every single session. Keep in mind, we are here to help you. Remember that mentorship, that coach, use your resources, guys. If there's one thing that I could say, use all the resources that you're gaining, not only just here, but just with your network, and make sure that you don't lose that momentum. Fair enough. I'm gonna turn it over to Miss Natalie Wack. Most of you met her night 1?
And 2.
And 2? And 2. Here we go.
Thank you. All right. Hi, guys. How are you? I know, I'm sorry I missed the last 2 weeks. I was traveling for one, and then one of my goals this year was to be purposeful and intentional with time, my own time. So last week I spent time with my daughter at her recital for dance, so being intentional there. But I'm sorry I missed a great session. So sounds like you guys talked passion, process, and progress. And I'll just add in before I start talking about the pitch, I actually have all of the people on my team do a tactical action plan. So I call it a TAP 90. And it's a 90-day plan. It's 3 things that you want to have as your goal, and then some tactical items on some of the behaviors you're going to do to help yourself get there. And I love when you talked about changing your process and your calendar, because the big key in that is, and Lorena can be a culprit here, I'll be like, how are you making out? 60 days later, and she's like, I didn't do anything. I'm like, why? Why are you setting? You do. But part of that is holding yourself accountable and being able to say, okay, well, maybe I set the goal too high. Maybe I need to change something that I'm doing. So change is okay. Change is good. Just do it in small pieces, right? 90 days is a lot easier to adjust than an entire year. So I'm glad you had a good class last week. So before I pass it off to Joe, and I'm sure he's going to be the fun, inspirational part of the day today, everyone got from Lorena just some information about the round one pitches. So if you recall, there are two processes for part of the lab around the pitching. So we have a round one, which is predominantly a written piece, okay? So what you have in front of you are the round one pitch questions that you will have to answer. We're gonna have you guys email that. We're gonna send out an email tomorrow with all of the instructions, but I just wanna make sure that there's no questions, so at least over the break, if you have questions, come find me. So you'll answer the questions. Don't write an essay. Okay, just be brief and be brilliant. Tell us who you are, what your business is, what the plan is, how you're going to impact, like what your plan is to impact the community. A lot of you talked about that on day one when you introduced yourselves. If you were to win the funds, what would you use the money for? So the questions are all detailed out, and those will be in a written format. What I also included for all of you were specifically the judging questions that go with those. So just so you have some perspective on the individuals that will judge, and that's just a small group of individuals. They are going to rate each of those questions by 10 points, and then we will do a cumulative amount to decipher who are the finalists that go into the live pitch. So you've got a copy of questions that you are to answer. You've got the questions that the judges are considering, which are for the most part in line with what you're presenting. But I just wanted you to have that information so you can be better prepared. And you've got 1 week to think about it. So again, don't overprocess, take a breath, manage your time, a couple of sentences, but make sure what you write is to the point and direct. You can exclude a lot of fluff if it's not necessary, okay? And what we are going to give you the opportunity to do is also do a 3 to 5 minute pitch. So we will give you all a link it's a WebEx link. You're all going to sign in. You'll get separate times for that, and you can tell us what time makes the most sense for you, but we'll open it up for you. You'll go in, it'll record you for 3 to 5 minutes, giving a pitch on who you are. So think about what you're writing in the written format, putting that to words. It is just a nice way for you to gauge a lot of what Joe is talking about today, right? How do you show up on camera? How do you present yourself? How do you present who you are, why you're doing what you're doing, what it is that you're doing, who you're doing it for, in 3 to 5 minutes. So it's a lot of fun. Don't stress about it. The heavier weighting is definitely all on the written portion of it, but it's a nice opportunity for you to get a chance to watch yourselves. I recommend video yourself with your phone, and then play yourself back. It's really eye-opening to watch yourself back and see how you show up and how you project before you hop on the WebEx. But all of that information will come out in an email tomorrow for all of you, okay? And that'll be due by midnight next Wednesday. And then what'll come of that is we will skinny that down to 5 or 6. Sometimes we have ties and points, finalists, and those finalists will be announced next week. Not next week, the week after. And then those individuals will do the live pitch on the last day for graduation. Sound good? Okay. Did you have a question? Okay.
So the questions are also due, you said, by next week?
Yes. That's part of the round one. So don't overthink. Again, some of them you might be able to collaborate. If you can find, if a couple of the questions overlap, that's okay. We'll take that into account too. Okay? All right. For a final, we'll select 5 or 6. Yeah, we end up having every year we've done this so far, we've had a tie somewhere. So we end up with about 5 finalists on average. We aim for 5. Sometimes we have 6. Sound good? Okay, if you have questions, ask me during the break. Let me just quickly pass this off here to Mr. Joe Hackett here, who is with Ben Franklin Technology. I think most of you have heard of Ben Franklin for the most part. I'll let him do a formal introduction, but he's the regional director for the Ben Franklin Group, and this is his passion, is talking pitches. So, Joe?
Great, thank you. I'm not actually a microphone holder, so if it drifts away, let me know. My name's Joe Hackett. I'm the regional director for Ben Franklin Technology Partners. Our group covers the 8 counties down here, York, Lancaster, Harrisburg, and kind of the surrounding counties. But I'm part of a 32 county group that runs all the way to Lake Erie. Now, many of those counties have more animals than people, but we still find businesses out there to work with, right? There are 4 Bens altogether. There's one in Philly, and there's one in Pittsburgh. Very different markets, and so they need a different way to do Ben Franklin business. Let me just take one step back. Ben Franklin was created in 1982, and the purpose behind it was that colleges and universities are creating a lot of IP, intellectual property. They're finding answers to questions, and professors get paid to teach, do research, and write papers. So a lot of that intellectual things that they created were sitting on the shelf somewhere. We were created to help commercialize those elements, and we've expanded it the same way that Penn State has. We are part of Penn State University. That's our back room. We don't actually engage with them in a lot of other ways, but they're our back room. So we have no overhead. We're one of those companies where our dollars go directly out into the businesses we support. And I want to follow on a comment that was made earlier about answering questions. When you answer questions, I would suggest in writing that you do it in bullet points. You take the 2 or 3 most important things that answer your question and put them down in bullets. And then you can either expand or contract from there. But writing out a paragraph as an answer probably takes you away from the important elements that you want to put into an answer, okay? So bullet points are a really effective way to do that. All right, so we're going to talk about pitch decks. This is a tried and true process. I have the benefit of also being the lead for an angel group. And so an angel group is a group that provides funding to businesses, typically technology businesses. Most of the members of our group happen to be in the medical space, and so we like medical applications, right? But I get to see 300 or 400 pitches a year. So I see a lot of pitches. Some of them are really good, and some of them need work. And what we're going to do today is we're going to go through those things that I've seen and that our team has seen in pitches to help you to make sure that you simplify what you can, you make sure that it's consistent throughout your presentation. And ultimately, the thing to remember here is that you are telling a story. So it has a beginning, a middle, and an end, right? You are telling the story of your business if you're trying to raise money. So let's get into it. Your pitch. Your goal here is that you want to make sure that when you have finished your story, that whoever has heard what you've said understands what problem you're solving, how you're solving it, and in the case of if you are trying to raise money, how you're going to help whoever is listening make money from the process that you're going through. Does that make sense? All right. I got 2 decks here. So I got 99 problems, but a pitch ain't one, right? So, but the three things that we want to focus on are, oh, I'm sorry, I went too many. Simplicity, consistency, and structure. If you are a technical person, and that could mean that you are simply an expert in your space, what we tend to do when we are experts in our space, I will give everybody this deck. So don't write down anything in this deck, right? I will give this to you so you have it. My objective here, and I'm doing what I hope that you will do, I am putting words on the slide so that you have something to look at, and then I'm going to talk about what those are and expand on them. This is what you will be doing when you have your pitch. You will not write paragraphs. You will not do even complete sentences. You will have key phrases or to provide context for what you're going to talk about. Me, I'm talking about simplicity. So what does it mean to be simple in this process? It means you're not trying to demonstrate how smart you are. You are trying to convey in a very simple way what your business does and why it does it. I always tell my companies that you want to answer three questions in the pitch. Why you? Why now? And who cares? And so why you? What is it about you that makes you the one to solve this problem, right? Simple, right? You want to be able to go through a process where you say why it's you. Why are you or your team, if you have more than one person, why are you the ones to solve this problem? Why now? Especially if you're looking for an investor, the urgency of solving the problem is something that is valuable because you have people who are willing to pay you to help them solve it. So if it's an urgent problem, you're likely to be able to charge more and create more profit. That means investors get a better return, right? You get a better return. It's what we all want. Consistency. What we want to make sure when we are looking at how a slide deck is put together is we want to make sure that we're doing it in a formulaic way. We have a header on a page. We may have our logo in the lower right-hand corner. We do these things for all the slides. And what it does is it creates professionalism, right? It demonstrates that you have a process that you're going through and that your pitch deck is uniform. People aren't looking for things on your deck. It's easy for them to find what they're looking for. So next slide, and this is the big one for a lot of people. You ready? What is that? That is 7 minutes. 420 seconds, that's your 7 minutes, right? That's what your pitch is going to be. And this is a little bit shorter than some pitches. Typically, pitches that we would look at for our group are between 12 and 15 minutes. And if you go over 15 minutes, you're going to lose your people. I hate to say it, but people's attention span is about this long. And if you go over their attention span, you're going to lose them. You're going to lose the value of the important things you said. They're not going to remember them because all they're going to hear is like Charlie Brown. Wah, 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 right? That's what happens. You think it's funny, but that's the last thing you want to have happen. All right. And so while we're doing this in our 420 seconds, we want to make sure that we're delivering on the 4 C's, which are compelling. We want to have a story that's compelling, one that they understand, but that's compelling. We want to be credible. This is probably one of the most important things that you will try to achieve in your pitch is credibility. Because what it does is it brings to you, when someone hears what you say and they feel that you're credible, you get raised in their eyes, right? They're more confident in what you say. So the more times that you can say things that your audience views as credible, right? You're not going to say, I'm going to have $10 million in sales in the first year. That's not credible, right? In fact, it diminishes you when you say those kinds of things, right? And so you want to make sure that the narrative that you use is realistic. And with that, you get credibility. Clear and concise, all right? Common mistakes. So a common mistake is an unclear story. Now, you've all heard stories. Tell me an example of an unclear story. You've heard them. Richard. Rambling. Okay. Another really important way is people try to put too much into the story, right? They're bombarding you with data or information. So it's important, and when you do your slides, and we'll get to this in a minute, but when you do your slides, I go back to the bullet points. I always recommend that because it's very easy for you to get the most important things that you're trying to convey on your slide if you do it in bullet points. If you try to write sentences or a narrative, I'm going to show you an example later. They're hard to follow anyway. So we already did a little bit of this, right? Too much information. Where do you see the slide I have later? You'll never do it after you see that slide. And this is another thing. Sometimes we try to put too much into the deck itself. You know, nobody wants to see the deck flying by, right? We want to be able to have something that is important on the slide. We want to hear why it's important. We want it to tie into the story so that it's the next logical step in me telling you about how my business works and why I'm going to make money doing it. All right? So we want to have an appropriate number of slides. And I would say if you're going to do 7 minutes, if you have more than 10 slides, you have too many. And then we're going to get to poor layout, which again gets back to that credibility and simplicity and conciseness. And this is the slide I was talking about. You ready for this? I hope you never put a slide together like this. I mean, that just looks like a mess, doesn't it? And imagine if I'm trying to tell you what's going on this slide, and you're not listening to me. You're trying to figure out what any of that stuff means. And so it's really important. Colors are important. The mix of fonts, the diagramming that you can get on there. You can do all of these things, and it's very effective if done right. I would tell you never to put red in your slide deck. Red. I don't know why people want to, it actually kind of has a negative perception. Red is a bad thing in a lot of cases. You know, you have a bottom line that's positive or it's red, it's negative, right? And I'd never put that on a financial chart either. I'd never put red as a number on a financial chart, ever. They're all black, and if it's negative, you put a negative sign in front of it, right? Never put red on a financial chart. But, so these are some very common mistakes. Too much illustration, too many pieces, and they don't give you're certainly not listening to me when you're looking at it, right? All right. There are the common mistakes. Let me come around there and see it. We are going to avoid all of these. And we're going to get to that complex diagrams here in a minute. Here you go. How's that for an eye chart? Anybody who says they have an eye chart, there's probably 3 or 4 good pieces of information on here, and you're never going to find them, and you're never going to know what they are. Even if I point them out, this is not, when you have this much data, what you want to do is you want to do a chart that has lines that show direction, or you want to use bar charts, right? You use something that shows a little bar that, okay, this is how much revenue I had this year. This is how much revenue, and it gets bigger, right? This is how much revenue I had this year. But this is, it's not legible. There's nothing that you're going to get from this, regardless of how long I speak about it. This may be a little hard for you in this setup. I don't know if you can find out who the judges are so that you can do a little homework on them.
We'll share that information.
Perfect. So this is not a license to stalk. This is just, you go out and you learn about them, right? You learn what business they're in. Is it complementary to what you're doing? Does it connect some way? Do they have some, if you go on LinkedIn, do they have some relationship that would be important to your business that you might want to connect in your presentation? I do this all the time. I have a little side story. I have a system that I use called PitchBook. And what it does is it gives me all of the investors who report across the country. There's something like 4 million entries in it. And what it does is it allows me to do that. I stalk them. I go out and I find out, okay, when's the last time you made an investment? Did you make it in this space? How much did you invest? All of those kinds of things. Information's out there, as it will be for judges. You get to know what they're interested in. They like bicycling. They like walking. They like poetry. It may be impactful for your business.
I have a question.
Shoot.
Let's pretend that I'm pitching my business to all of these people right here. And I've done my research, and especially in kind of an environment like this, if I'm pitching a vegan dessert thing
Yeah.
in this situation where I want to be like, okay, so I know that the vegan is here, let me speak a little bit to you. Is that ignoring, the soul food place or the apparel place?
That's a great question. But what you're doing is you're making a connection with a person who is involved in a decision-making process. The other part of this is 6 degrees of separation. We all know somebody who's a vegan, right? Or somebody who's gluten-free, or we all know people like that. So now what it does is it brings relevance to us. And that's a very important part of we're going to get to it here, in your setup. How do you set up how you're going to engage those who you want to understand your story? And part of that is done by making connections, making references that they can associate with personally. Does that make sense? I see a lot of, I'm not sure about that faces, right? Okay, so we're at simplicity. Less is more. Simple, hold on. That was less, wasn't it? Now it's less, a little less. You cannot tell your business's life story in 7 minutes. You can't do it. You can tell about key pieces of it. That's what we mean by being simple. How do you get across the key elements, the ones that are important, the ones you want them to ask questions about? Okay. Next.
Can I just interject
Oh,
that?
sure.
So guys, a common mistake then is paying attention, and maybe you'll touch on this, like your tone and your speed, right? Because in an attempt to pack everything into a slide sometimes, people like speed talk to us, and think about a downpour versus a drizzle. We need to absorb what you're saying. So think about speaking in a drizzle, not a downpour. And that's where, to Joe's point,
That's possible, but really what happens there is the context, what you're saying then is not sufficient to support what's on the slide. Because what you want to do is you want their eye to hang on the thing that you put on there, but you want them listening. You don't want them reading that. It's just a nice, easy place because people want to look at something and then they can listen. And you want them listening to what you're saying. So more than anything else, the narrative that goes with what's up here is more important. So it's what you're saying. So unless there's not enough context for what you're talking about.
How do you determine high-level information?
Remember that bullet point thing I talked about? It's a process of distilling the elements of your business that are most important to convey in the financial context, in the problem-solving context, in the solution context. I haven't talked about it much. You're going to see it up there a little later, but value proposition. People don't buy benefits. They buy what's valuable to them. Right? You need to figure out what that is. Why are you even sitting here listening to my pitch? Did I do enough homework to be able to say the things from a value proposition to you that will engage you in my business? We did all words for this. Graphics are great. You just want to make sure that they're not distracting, right? A graphic can be a very good addition to a slide, but I'm keeping it simple. More is less, right?
So think about, some of you have products and some of you sell a service. If you have a product, obviously showing a picture of your product is impactful, right? Because that's what you're selling. Some of you sell a service, so explaining in that sense the core of your service that you're providing to people and the value, like the value add sense is impactful. So you just have to weigh that based on what you're trying to convey to what you're saying.
Selling products can tend to be easier than selling ideas, services, right? Because a service is really the idea that I'm going to get some unique benefit, concierge services for my properties, right? That I'm going to get value from that. And your objective is to be able to describe why that value should be important to you. That's not always easy to do. I used to be in banking. Everybody thinks selling money is easy. Selling money is not easy, right?
You didn't sell money, Joe.
Well, you know what I'm saying, yeah. Lending is selling, right? So be purposeful. Headlines, not details. We talked a little bit about that already. And my slide deck on my computer where I have my notes where I'm cheating is not moving forward for me. There we go. All right. So, sure. Of headlines, not details. What's your business?
Likely vegan catering.
Vegan, okay. So if you were going to put a headline out for your business, it would be something relative to health, right?
I have a slogan that says helping humans, saving lives, one delightful dish at a time.
That sounds like a great headline. And there's like 3 or 4 elements in there. And those could be elements that you expand on that could be headlines, maybe even for different slides that you provide more detail on. So headlines are the things that are important to your business that you want to expand on. Okay? Yep. The other important thing here is that if somebody's interested, they're going to get to the details, right? Your whole goal here is to make sure that they know enough about what you're doing that you can get to that step where they're going to want to ask about more details. We use the term due diligence, right? It's a process. Show, don't tell. Here you go. While there's our first picture, right? Our first illustration. Not necessarily the best one, but it emphasizes how a picture could enhance your slide. And then rule 3 is patterns create order. And so when we talk about that, what we're talking about there is when you're doing your slide deck, the way that you put together your deck creates a pattern. And what it does is it allows people not to think about what the deck is doing, but what you're saying, right? It allows them, again, to have a place for their eye to hang, but for you to be able to create that order, professional look. This is another element that helps to bring credibility to you as the presenter. The way that your deck looks, and we talked about the different types of titles and headlines and those kinds of elements. Be efficient. Too much stuff can be distracting, right? We showed that on that other slide. And I talked about using columns and for bar charts, using lines to show what the direction is of a trend. Yeah. So on a financial page, what you want to do is you want to talk about what your direction will be. Sometimes it's a projection, sometimes it's historical information. And then, so here we go. I say here, treat it like an outline. Again, it's bullet points, and how do we make sure that the flow is consistent? Okay, so now the last piece here is structure. Prioritize and the flow control. So when you start this process, I think what I recommend to people is, in many cases, I start at the end. I want to know what outcome do I want to have, and then I want to build back from that. So I want to start at the end. I know how I'm going to do my setup, but now what I want to do is I want to build back through my deck in order to be able to create the story. Because I know what I want them to ultimately hear, and now what I want to do is I want to build the pieces that support what I want them to hear. I already talked about this a little bit, use of color and size and spacing. This is a very, it can be a difficult thing to do. We get creative when we start to build our deck and we start to put in colors and pictures and things. What I would recommend is that you find somebody who's dull and boring to look at your deck and say, how do I make this simpler, right? How do I make this, proofreading? Do you know anybody who proofreads? That's a really important skill in doing this, because the last thing you want is a spelling error in your deck, and they happen all the time. They do. Keep it sequential. So again, that's why I start at the end and I work my way back. You wind up with a sequence. Things follow their way through the deck, and you're in a position where, since you know what the outcome's going to be, you create a logical order. Okay, so here's what should be in your deck. 7-minute pitch. First thing I want to do is I want to make sure that everybody who's listening to my pitch is thinking about it from the same perspective I am. So that's the overview or the setup. So at the beginning of the deck, you want to make sure that if you're talking about something that's esoteric, like piezoelectric material, well, I want everybody to know what piezoelectric material is, right? So I want to talk about how that works and why we're going to talk about it. The next is certainly the problem, right? Everybody's solving a problem here, right? People who come and give you their hard-earned money are solving a problem. Solution, and we talked a little bit about this, it's the value prop, right? We know what we're solving, but the value proposition is why they decide to buy our product or our service. Then we're going to skip down to competition. This is probably one of the least understood things that people who are starting or working in a business have. They don't really understand the competition. But this is probably one of the most important elements of research that you want to be able to demonstrate expertise in. Because who was it who was talking about their IP? You were talking about a copyright or something, right? That's a really easy way to have your business stolen, as you suggested. And so it's important to understand who your competition is and where they are relative to the service or product solution that you have. Market potential, how big is the market? You can do research on this. There's a lot of stuff online that will talk about what you're doing in your space. It's really kind of amazing what's out there and available. And investors want to know that your market is big enough that you're not going to need to have 80% of the market to be successful, right? They want to know that you're going to be able to go out and get maybe 5% of the market, and you're going to have a great business. Because it's really hard to get 85% of the market. 5% may not be so hard. There might be people who are looking for your solution the way you have it. The business model and financial plan, that's fairly self-explanatory. This next one, though, the team, who is it? I asked those three questions earlier. Why you, right? Why are you the ones to solve the problem? Why are you the special ones who have this unique knowledge, unique skill set, created this unique thing, have this unique approach? That's what, when you talk about your team, it's all about how it drives the solution that you have and why your expertise positions you differently than everybody else. That's what all investors want. They want to know that you're different and why you're different. Then the ask, in our typical scenario, we fund companies every quarter, so they always come in and they have an ask for us. We probably fund about $3.5 million a year, and our typical investments for a first-time company might be $50,000, and if they grow really well, we might do $100,000 the next year. But the ask is a really important element in that one of the things that I said earlier was to be realistic. If you're asking for $10,000, you're not going to hire 3 people, do marketing, and there's $10,000 just won't go that far. And so you need to be realistic in your ask, and you need to make sure that the elements that you are trying to support with the ask that you have are ones that somebody could sit back and say, yep, I understand how that could work and how you could be successful and how that would drive your business. Community impact and close, right? Community impact is really important. We need to make sure that we're demonstrating how our business is impacting our community. And that is one of the things that is part of the 4 elements that the judging criteria will have is community impact, right? You have that on your sheets. Okay. Let me catch up over here. All right, so what we're going to go to next is our opening slide. And so our opening slide we're going to run through a deck now. So the opening slide is our hook. Has everybody heard of a hook before? This is the thing that engages the audience. So, they're sitting back, they got their arms crossed, and you give your hook, and you see people lean forward, and now they really want to know what you're doing. If you can get that action to happen, you've done a great job with your hook. And it's interesting how different hooks, sometimes it's a data point, sometimes it's a personal message, sometimes it's your own engagement. All of those things can be hooks. All right. Next slide, problem and customer. So what we need to do here is, and how's that for a graphic? You like that house on a roof? So we want to be really clear the problem that we're solving, and we want to be able to identify in this particular place why we think that this particular group is a customer of ours, right? So we want to associate the problem with who the customer that we're going after is. It's really important to tie those two together, okay? And then the next is our solution. So we have come up with a way to solve this problem that meets the criteria that our customer says, I'm going to take my hard-earned money, whether it's a B2B or a B2C application, that I'm going to pay you to solve this problem for me. There are lots of problems that are out there that never get solved. People just figure out how to deal with them. That is competition. The idea that someone's simply going to live with the problem they have and deal with it the way they've always dealt with it is competition. All right, product and IP. Does anybody have IP? Does anybody here, besides maybe a copyright? Okay, Richard, you have. And you've protected it? The hard part about IP, and investors love IP, but the hard part about IP is defending it. And the reason for that is it's really expensive to do. And so with a lot of our companies, what we recommend that they do is that they have trade secrets. They have things, the way that they do their business is proprietary to them, right? They're the only ones who know how that works. And I've got a question.
No, I was just gonna say, there may be some people in here that have IP that may not know that they have, like, what they have, so if you wanna clarify.
Sure.
May fall under that intellectual property.
My first caveat is I'm not an attorney, and so this is not legal advice. Or as my wife says, I'm a wealth of useless information. So you can take it for however you want to take that. But so there are a couple of different ways that our companies protect themselves. I have a company in the Lancaster area, and they have figured out how to take leather, break it down into its fibers, put it back together, and you can make shoes, handbag. It's almost identical to original leather. Pretty cool concept, huh? And they have some patents, but the most important part of what they've done, they've kept a trade secret. And what that means is there's the way they process their material and the way they put it together. It's like baking a cake, right? If you put the ingredients in a different order, you get a different outcome. Same thing with them. They put the ingredients together in a way, and so they have a trade secret. You may have that too. You may have it as a recipe for something you're doing. You may have it as part of the way that you do business. But that element that distinguishes you from other groups who are doing the exact same thing that you're doing gives you that economic advantage. And so these guys, the ones I was telling you about, the leather guys, they have Nike knocking on their door, because Nike, who makes many, many leather shoes, have about 10 million tons of scrap that they create a year. And they're trying to figure out something to do with it, because everybody wants their companies that they buy product from to be green, right? And so instead of burning it or putting it in a landfill, and believe it or not, leather puts off an enormous amount of methane as it decomposes. So IP, though, is something that you want to make sure that if you're going to get it, that you get a really good attorney who operates in your space. Okay? Competition. Let me get over here to competition on this one. So rule number one is never say there isn't any competition, right? I said that earlier. There's always competition. The status quo, not dealing with the problem, is competition. If you say that, I can pretty much guarantee, I'm over time, aren't I? I can pretty much guarantee that somebody in the audience will, I'm almost done, I'm working on, that someone in the audience will get on their phone and they will find competition for you, and they'll ask you, well, what about this? Right? It's the last thing you want to have happen in your presentation. All right? And so there are different ways to describe your competition and where you fit in that. The diagram that's up there on the top right, what we typically see is that your solution is the one that's, I can't even read that up there, peer-to-peer. So the way this diagram is set up is that typically the most effective and the most friendly of the options is in the upper right corner. Okay, and in this case, it happens to be a company that we funded called Pledge It. They compete with all of these other companies, and they do. They provide a service to not-for-profits and groups who are trying to raise money, and they do it for free. And you know how they get paid? They get tips. So what happens is when you donate your $10, they may donate $2 in order to cover the costs for Pure Active. And it's one of the fastest growing companies that we have invested in. And they get all their money, all their revenue through tips. Okay, and this is another one. This is another way to demonstrate how you compare to competition. Blind Tiger is a non-alcoholic drink, and you can see all the criteria they put across there, and then the names of other non-alcoholic products that are reflected. This is another chart, and we talked about the market and how big it is, TAM, SAM, and SOM. And you can see what each of those means, and these are just different formats for being able to present what that looks like. But this is a very effective way for you to be able to reflect what you're going after. Next is the revenue model. You almost always want to talk about how much sales you have, revenue, right? Every time you do a presentation, you want to talk about your revenue. You want to talk about where it comes from, how you charge to get it, and you can see that up there in the green across the top. This is my revenue model, right? Subscriptions, transaction fees, and cashback. All right. Next one is my growth plan. So in this case, we're looking at a 5-year plan, and this is exactly what I mentioned earlier. Here's the bar charts, the yellow parts are the bars, and then the other information is not in numerical form, but it's plotted across the different the different years for the revenue. You can see down the bottom it says employees, revenue, gross profit, and net profit. And those are the elements that are shown here. This might be all the exact same information that I showed on that eye chart, but this is in a digestible format. Another format for how to do this, again, it's a way to be able to clearly show how your sales and your margin and your profit are going. You're going to recognize maybe Jay. Does anybody recognize Jay? Okay. Jay is the, you can see here, he's the head of the Center for Entrepreneurship and Innovation here at HU. Julie, who was supposed to be here tonight in place of me, I don't know if I told you this, but she's on a beach in Greece somewhere. So I'm jealous. I hope you're jealous too, because I'm sure she's sipping a cocktail or something. So what's important here, though, is to be able to articulate, I've got a CEO, I've got a CFO, so I've got my chief strategist, who's my CEO, I've got a financial person, I've got a marketing person, and I've got a product person. And so my team is helping me to launch my business, and this is why we're going to be successful, because these skill sets are necessary for success. All right? Close and ask. $10,000, social media ad campaign, trade show. So the ask is really important. Again, this is the last point where you get to demonstrate credibility. Because what you're doing is you're saying, okay, what can I reasonably do with the funds that I could get in this circumstance? And if you're going to get $10,000 or $20,000, whatever your ask is, you want to make sure that one, you've checked to see, if I pay this much, I can get this outcome, right? Because what everybody wants to know is, when you do these things, what's the outcome going to be? When I say I'm going to do a trade show, what do I expect the outcome of that trade show to be, and how is it going to drive my business and make my investor happy? And then the last piece here is the community impact, right? How is what we're doing impacting our community? Again, that's one of the criteria for the judging. So you want to make sure that you're very clear on how your business is impacting the community. And now you're done listening to me, and I get to listen to you. I think they're going to throw me out because I've already gone over my time by a lot. Yeah.
Not throwing you out.
Yeah. But close. Questions, though.
All of the above, that's honest. We should be together. Yeah?
This is not a hard process. I'm sorry, you have a question?
Clarification, you said bullet points.
Yep.
So on the slides, they're bullet points, but you're saying also our pitch questions, they're in bullet points?
What I'm suggesting is the way for you to frame your thoughts is to do it in bullet points. What you're going to do is you're going to list the most important things you need to talk about to answer that question, and then you can write your narrative from there. I recommend the same thing here for your deck. Bullet points are a really great way for you to get only the important stuff. I call it word salad. We start to just talk about something, right? If you do bullet points, it makes it really easy to be very concise.
If I may add, just from our judging standpoint, because a lot of this will be new to many of you. So if you're thinking about your pitch questions, to Joe's point, absolutely feel free. If you're not a freehand writer and writing an entire paragraph to try to disseminate it like it's difficult, to Joe's point, absolutely start with bullet points. And sometimes they just elaborate on those bullet points and you've got 3 sentences right there, right? I'm not gonna read your stuff like a literal major, right? I'm not necessarily grading you from that perspective. We're looking for the content mostly, right? But do your best, and we're gonna give you real feedback. So you will get feedback from each of us on, if you are coming to me at the bank and saying, hey Nat, I really wanna take a look at getting a loan for this, and I say, all right, give me your business plan, or pitch to me verbally who you are and what you're doing, how you articulate that will continue to get better, right? So just take that into consideration. There's a lot of information, and the first time you do it, you're not going to be an expert unless you've done it before. So be kind to yourselves. Be kind to yourselves as well, okay?
Just real quick, for a lot of us, being, like, we may have obviously a vision of having employees and being a bigger company, but for a lot of us, we're, doing this by ourselves. So when we're referencing our company, is it more appropriate to say I or we, to speak in future tense as far as, in referencing the company, or?
Either is fine. I mean, there are a lot of lifestyle businesses, right? And that's what you have a business that's you. And there's a lot of those. That's what makes the U.S. great, right? We've got a lot of sole proprietors or LLCs who are out there making it happen every day. And so, but when you talk to grant groups, they're going to want to understand that you have a plan, and your plan is going to be able to make your business successful. And that may mean paying some of them back. Sometimes they're not grants, sometimes they're a loan of some sort. But there's always help from these groups. I probably work with about 200 companies, all of whom are tech, which is it's just different from your business, that's all. And the opportunity there is we have a lot of solo people, especially with software. People come up with this really interesting idea, and they're out there doing it. It's the world is changing fast. There were 2 or 3 other things that I wanted to say. You have a 7-minute pitch. We were talking about pace. What you will find is that you will talk faster at the end of your pitch than you do at the beginning of your pitch, because you're worried about running out of time. So if you practice, which we do, which we try to get all of our companies to do, so that you can comfortably finish in that time and know that you've gotten the important points across. The last thing you want to do is not get to your last slide, right? So it's important that you practice and find other people. The last thing I'll suggest is go on Zoom, turn the camera on, do the pitch to Zoom. You get to see it. You get to see all those funny things that you do, right? We all have those little twitches and things that we, right? Those can be distracting. And so as long as you know it's there and you know that you do that, you can eliminate some of those things. But Zoom is a great way, if you don't have somebody else who's there right then, to be able to see and hear your pitch. You sound and look a lot different than you think you do sometimes when you're doing your pitch, right? But it's good for you to know how that, how can you capitalize on that? Because, our personality is a big part of our business. And if you can build that into your presentation, you will be a lot more successful.
Yeah, stand in front of your mirror, set a timer for 5 minutes. It goes by fast. So, all right.
45 minutes goes by fast.
Thanks, Joe. Can we give Joe a round of applause? We're running a little tight, so here's what we're going to do. I think we should do everyone take a break. Go to the restroom. Dinner is here, but it's getting set up. They had an issue with their delivery driver, so it is here. So take a minute, stretch your legs, and then if everyone's okay, maybe we do a bit of a working dinner. Is that okay? Like work and eat at the same time, and that way we can all get out on time still? Sound good? All right, take some time.
Thanks, guys.
It might be a good thing you sat away from me today. We on the same page. Me too.
Yeah, yeah. They are really lucky.
He started sliding the window down because he heard you going through it. I'm like, I'm not going to you, sir. Like, for real.
All right, folks. Oh, God, that was loud. I'm loud enough in general. Michael? Does everyone have their food? Finally? I mean, it wasn't late at all.
You're not upset.
I wasn't upset at all, right? We are going to go ahead and get started. Our next speaker is Michael Stevens, who is my counterpart. He's a relationship manager, same as I am for M&T Bank, and he's going to be discussing financial statements and some credit with you all. So without further ado, Michael, you can tell them all about yourself.
Hello, hello, hello. How are we? How do you feel? Are you guys so excited to be part of the Multicultural Small Business Lab? Did you know that, what year is this? Is this 2 or 3? Year 3. That means we're still at the kind of beginning phases. It's the inaugural class, if you will. Very cool stuff. I've been really excited to prepare to be with you guys tonight because small business banking is what I do, right? Commercial business banking, but small business, I believe, is absolutely the heart of the community. So all of you guys, never underestimate what you do to contribute to the community. You're going to be providing jobs for families. You're going to take care of your own family, putting food on your table, sending your babies off to college, or somebody else's babies off to college. Those are big deals, right? Is that right? All right. So my name is Michael Stevens. As Lorena said, I handle business banking relationship management. It's the same that what she does at M&T Bank. And so, obviously financials is kind of something that's near and dear to our heart, right? Natalie, a question from the back.
I was just going to add that if you're interested in knowing more, Michael also owns his own small business. So,
I was just going to say, yeah. So I am an entrepreneur. I have a couple of business ventures that I'm involved in. And Latifa, you and I were just talking about how you have a worship arts background, and that's exactly what my business does. I have an LLC, it's called Declare LLC, and so I do speaking engagements, faith-based speaking engagements. My family and I have a worship music ministry, so we'll travel around and we'll do concerts, holiday concerts, or what have you. And then I also work with churches to help them develop their worship music ministry. I'm working with a church out in Hummelstown right now that's just in their 5th year of operation, and we're trying to get them going with a worship team. So that's what I do alongside the bank. So anyhow, and I should tell you too, my daughter's a little entrepreneurial. She just started her own social media venture. She graduates high school this year, Olivia, and that's what she decided to put her efforts towards. So anyhow, I'm excited to be here with you all today, and I just wanted to say one thing before I get started, and that's that I know that in day one of everybody coming together, you shared about your why, what's important to you, why you got started to do what you do. You're passionate about what you do. Hang on to that, because a lot of the getting started in business, it can feel like a grind. Am I right? It takes money, it takes dedication, it takes resources and partnerships throughout the community, but stay in it. And especially as we're working through stuff like financial statements, which is not the most interesting thing that you're ever going to learn about, but stay in it. It's good, okay? All right, so just a couple of questions to kind of get us started here. Share with me on a scale of 1 to 5, maybe a couple of you, what would be your comfort level with business credit? We'll start with you. Okay, a 2? Fair. A 1? Thanks for being honest. Yeah, appreciate that. Anybody else? 1? Maybe one more? A 1, okay. That's really great. It's because now we know where we're starting from and we have a place to go, right? If you came to me or somebody at M&T Bank and you said, I'd really like to get a loan, and I or one of my team members said to you, okay, put together your financial package and send that to me, would you know what you're putting together? Okay. Okay. This is going to be a good class for everybody. When you think about financial statements, and again, we'll dig into that here in a little bit, but when you think about that, who do you think would be interested to see your financial statements? What kinds of people? Investors, absolutely. They want to know what they're putting their money into, right? Who else? Customers, maybe, right? Lenders. Ding, 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 that's who we are, right? Yeah. So CPAs, attorneys, investors, lenders, people need to understand what's going on in your business. If you're looking to grow, if you're looking to borrow, if you're looking for people to put some equity into your business, they need to know what you're about and that you're managing things responsibly. And that's what these things do. We had a presentation. Do you remember the company, the gentleman who spoke just before me, where he's from? So I thought it would be neat if we tie that together. So I'm going to give you a quote, okay? From Ben Franklin. If you fail to plan, you plan to, who can finish that, right? If you fail to plan, then you plan to fail. So what I'm going to suggest to you is that the things that we're going to work through tonight are the things that are going to help you in your planning process so that you don't fail. All right. All right, so we're going to go to the next slide. What are we going to look to be covering in terms of financial statements today? So financial statement reporting, we're going to talk about why that's important to a business. We're going to talk about the income statement. That's one of the financial statements. And we're also going to talk about the balance sheet. Again, another financial statement. We'll talk about all the things that these things do. Something else, the 6 C's of credit. Has anybody ever heard somebody say the 5 C's of credit before? Okay, so that sounds somewhat familiar to some of the folks in the room. Well, we decided that we'd just get real creative and we added a 6th one. It's the bonus for tonight. Okay, so why financial statements are important. Financial statements, I guess let's start with the big green bubble that you see over there. If you come to the bank and you say you want a loan or you want to talk about getting some financing, we're going to look at trends, right? We want to understand how has the business been doing, and so we're going to ask you for 3 years of financial statements, or at least 2, just so we can see what's going on with the business and what's occurred from one period like last year to the next period like this year. And then that's going to tell a story. It's going to tell the story of your business. So the financial statements, they provide insight into the financial health of the business. And I'll explain why here in a little bit. The financial statements accurately reflect the business performance and financial position. Help owners evaluate and make good decisions currently and in the future, and that's always going to be a thing, by the way. You're always going to be making decisions about your business. You're making decisions about it right now in the phase that you're in, and that's going to continue on as the business grows, right? And you want to make sure that you have the ability to measure the things that you're doing to grow your business. For example, if you decide, well, I'm going to throw $10,000 towards marketing or towards advertising, you're going to want to be able to tie that back 6 months or a year from now. You want to look back and say, what impact did that advertising have on my business? Did I grow or did I not? And why? You can kind of develop your plan from there. So the documents that we're going to be looking for then would be the income statement, like we talked about, the balance statement, an owner's personal financial statement. Has anybody in here ever filled out a personal financial statement? Okay. And of course, credit reports. That's probably more common to everybody, a credit report or a credit score. Okay, so those are the things. Again, it's why it's important. You want to stay on top of that. It's, again, not the most fun thing in the world, although some people think it's a blast. And I don't understand those people. All right, so let's talk a little bit about the income statement. All right, I'm looking for a volunteer to read. You in the back. You just look like you were just waiting for me to call on you. In the green bar, if you could read that for us, please. Would you prefer to somebody else? Okay. Go ahead. Would you read that for us, please?
A summary of a business's profitability over a period of time. It itemizes the revenues and expenses of past results that lead to the current profit or loss.
Thank you. What do you see there highlighted in green? Period of time. What do you see in the left-hand side of the screen? It's a video camera, right?
They're too young to know what that is.
Back in my day, we called it a camcorder. The reason that it's a video camera, y'all, but the reason that we have that up there is because the income statement really should be telling a story, okay, over a period of time. So we're looking at periods of time. We might be measuring month over month the financial performance. We might be measuring quarter after quarter, so every 3 months, how did we do last quarter versus how we're doing this quarter, and so on and so forth. And we may even measure that out from a yearly perspective. But so think about that, and that'll come into play. I want you to just remember the camcorder or the video camera because it's telling a story over time, over a period of time. That'll make more sense in a few minutes. But yeah, so we have here kind of what the components of the income statement are. So you have revenue. Who can tell me what revenue is? Go ahead with it. You got it. Basically money coming into the business, right? Okay. And then we have the light green, which is expenses. Pretty obvious what expenses are, right? Okay. And then, so revenue, the calculation is this. Revenue coming in minus expenses equals profit. Is it always a profit? Sometimes it can be a loss because sometimes the expenses of the business are going to end up being more than the revenues coming in. That's not a great story to tell, but sometimes that's what it is. Sometimes that's what it is, but there's always a way forward. Okay. So that's the equation. Now just real simple math here. So say the revenue is $100,000 into the company, okay? Expenses are $50,000. What's your profit? $50,000, right? It's really just as simple as that. Let's go ahead and take a look at an example of an income statement. Another bonus question. Income statement. What's another word for income statement? Anybody know? How about one of the bankers in the room? A profit and loss. Have you ever heard of a profit and loss? Or a P&L sometimes? Same thing. So it's an income statement and it's a profit and loss, but ultimately that's what we're trying to understand. So the revenue coming in and the expenses equals the profit or the loss. Hopefully a profit. All of you are going to be madly profitable. I just know it. All right, so here we have Uncle Mikey's lemonade stand. This is the business that I decided to present to you because I like making lemonade, and my friends enjoy it too. All right, so how much revenue did Uncle Mikey's lemonade stand bring in? Okay, and those are some expensive lemons because cost of goods sold is how much? Jeez, we got to think a little differently about those lemons, I think. But yeah, so cost of goods sold. Anybody take a stab at what cost of goods sold would be? Go ahead.
I don't know if I can explain it right.
That's all right.
Basically, so I do candles, right? So
Yeah.
I figured out the cost of goods sold is it costs me about $5 to make a candle, but if I sell that candle for $15, then
So your cost was
$5.
yeah. So anything that you needed to be able to produce that candle, to manufacture that candle, those are your cost of goods to be sold. Okay, so anything that you need in order to create that product that you're selling is a cost of goods. Make sense? Okay, but then you have some other things in there, and this is just a little bit more to give you an idea. We don't have to get too deep in the woods here, but just to give you a general idea. So we have marketing and advertising expenses, general and administrative, $20,000, maybe that's a salary. Maybe you're just paying some people or office supplies, things like that. But at the end of that, so you have the revenue coming in, that's always going to be your top line. You've got your expenses coming through, and it's just a math problem. You're just kind of subtracting out. Okay? Total revenues, subtracting out your expenses, and at the end of the day, you find your profit. Your net income is your net profit. Those two terms are interchangeable. So if somebody says to you, what's your net income? All you got to do is look at your profit and loss statement or your income statement and look at that bottom line. Make sense? Questions? We're going to keep rolling right along. Alrighty, so the next financial statement is the balance sheet. All right, I'm looking for another volunteer to read in the green. I got my eye on this one. Would you be willing to do it for us? Yeah. If you would. I caught you. I caught you just at the right time, huh? All right, go for it.
A condensed statement that shows the financial position of an entity on a specified date.
Okay, so a condensed statement that shows the financial position of an entity, which is just a business, on a specified date. So what do you notice about the picture on the left? Yeah, it's an 80s camera. Now, a lot of the cameras today, I know that they can do all kinds of fancy things, but let's pretend this is an old school one. So, can you typically with a camera, can you typically do a video? Not today. I'm talking in the 80s. Right. Okay. So the income statement is capturing a period of time, right, like a movie, but the balance sheet is capturing a specified date. Does that make sense? A Snapchat? A snapshot. Yeah, I was gonna say, I don't know Snapchat. My kids do. It's beyond me. They lost me at Facebook, so I don't know. All right. So what's on the balance sheet? Very simply, the balance sheet is going to demonstrate for you things that are your assets and things that are your liabilities. All right, so if you had an asset, if something's an asset, what does that mean? A couple different things. You said? Something to gain from it? Okay. Adds value, sure. That was your answer? Great answers, great thoughts. The assets, very simply, are things that you own, things that the business owns. And to your point, it adds value because these things that you own should be contributing to what you're doing so that you can produce your product, like equipment could be an asset, or if you need to travel to do your work, the vehicle could be your asset, okay? So things that you own. So if assets are things that you own, then liabilities must be things that you owe, right? So things you don't necessarily own, but things that you owe. All right, so just to kind of recap there, the balance sheet is a snapshot in time, not a Snapchat, a snapshot in time. And it's capturing things that you own compared to the things that you owe. Okay. So again, we're looking at Uncle Mikey's lemonade stand. There's a couple things I want to call out to you here. Do you see, under the assets category, do you see how it says the word current? You're going to see the word current a few different times throughout a balance sheet. Anybody have any idea what current is really saying? Yeah, things that you have at this moment. So to take that one step further, it's things that you are either going to pay or things that are going to be paid to you within a year. So your current assets are things that will convert to cash or be used to convert your product to cash within a year. Question? It can be an accrual, yeah. It can be an accrual.
Return on investment?
A return on investment? Sure. So if somebody, tell me more.
Basically, if you use like a hardware for your business, whatever you spend on it, you basically look at what you will receive in your investment later on from using that equipment.
Sure, you could look at it that way. So the equipment that you're using, can it produce or manufacture product or service technically within a year? That's the right way of thinking, yeah. Okay. So things that are current, again, are things that are either paid to you or that you're going to pay out within a year. All right. A fixed asset, do you see that on the balance sheet? A fixed asset? A fixed asset, just kind of what we were just talking about, right? So a fixed asset is something like a vehicle or something like a piece of equipment. Has anybody ever heard the term accounts receivable? Okay, so accounts receivable, anybody want to share with the group what that is? Mm-hmm. Yeah. So let's use the candle example. Say you have a contract with Hallmark, right? You have a agreement with Hallmark, you have a contract with them, and you're going to give them 500 candles. You're going to produce the 500 candles, you're going to send it to them, and then you're going to be paid. Maybe they haven't paid you yet for those 500 candles, but they're due to pay you, right? And that's an account receivable to you, okay? That is also an asset. That goes under the asset category as a receivable. Make sense? You with me? Boring or okay? Okay. All right, cool. All right, there is what we call a financial equation. Don't get too bogged down by it, but I just want you to understand how this form works together, okay? The financial equation, accountants, as you speak, maybe that's a good way to impress your CPA or your bookkeeper, okay? Assets equal, so the top line there, assets are equal to your liabilities, the things you owe, plus, now I'm going to introduce a third category to you, your equity. Okay, assets are equal to your liabilities plus your equity. Owner's equity is the category that I'm introducing to you up there. Again, really simply, don't get too bogged down with it. It's what the business owes back to the business owner. Okay? So maybe you've injected some capital into your business venture, and maybe you're not ready to pull that back out because you want to continue to reinvest the profits into the business and the money back into the business to continue to grow, to continue to develop your product or your service. So you're going to leave it in the business. That goes in the equity category. But it's what the business owes back to you. If year over year you are letting those earnings stay in the business, we call them retained earnings because they're retained in the business. It all makes sense if you think about it. Okay. So what do you think a lender, do you think a lender wants to see retained earnings or not wants to see retained earnings? Wants to. Wants to. Because we're seeing that you care about the business, you care about reinvesting your capital back into the business to continue to grow and stay healthy and stay viable. All right, questions on the balance sheet?
Anyone ever hear keep your skin in the game, or you have to have some skin in the game? That's what that is, right? That's why you hear that phrase. And it's always we, as lenders, everyone, wants to make sure that you are committed to your business, that you're reinvesting. Because if you take all the money out, which is called distributions, and Michael, I'm sorry, I can't keep my mouth shut even when I'm eating.
We've been friends a long time. This surprises me not at all.
So distributions are going to come out of your business. That's what they call when you're taking that equity out of your business. You want to retain earnings. You want to make sure that you're reinvesting it. Not saying that you shouldn't get paid. That's not the point. But you've got to reinvest some equity back in, skin in the game. Okay, great.
A round of applause for Lorena. Okay, so we're moving into the personal credit. So we're talking about business credit tonight, but at the same time, we care very much about your personal experience on the credit side because you're the business owner. You're the one, like Lorena was using the word skin in the game, the term skin in the game. We want to know you're in it. This isn't just something that's kind of a fly-by-night thing. We want to know that you're invested into your business. One of the ways that we measure that is your personal credit. So again, probably more on the familiar side of what you may know about credit so far, but so your cash flow. So if we're going to be giving some credit or you're going to a creditor, we got to make sure you have the ability to repay that. Loan. We don't want to put you in a position where you just can't repay. That's not going to help you and it's not going to help us. So cash flow is huge. Credit score, from a credit score perspective, a 680 is a pretty decent score as far as a baseline to say, okay, apparently there's some good credit history there. There's some good, so the chart's up there. Why don't we just go up to the chart? What makes up your credit score? How do you get the 680, the 700s, and so on and so forth? A lot of people don't know this, but the calculation can be relatively simple. So the largest of the impact to what makes up your credit score is your payment history. So if you have the ability to just make payments on time, regularly, that's making up 35% of what your credit score is. So make your payments on time. Now, do we all fall into it sometimes where it gets a little tough? We do. We all do, right? But get right back up on the horse because credit can always be repaired. What else? Credit utilization. So credit utilization, let's say, for example, you've got $10,000 that creditors have given to you altogether. Okay, so maybe you have a M&T Bank credit card. Maybe you have a PNC Bank credit card. The total credit that's available to you is $10,000, just hypothetically speaking. Okay, you want to keep that credit utilization, that total of that $10,000 that's available to you, you want to keep that below 30%. So 30% of the $10,000 would be what? Someone has it. I see what you're doing. Close. Well, it's 3,000, right? So the idea, though, is that you're thinking through what's this total available credit to me, and let's try to keep it under like a 30% of that. Go ahead.
My question is in relationship to the credit score.
Yeah.
Because there are 3 different reporting agencies,
Mm-hmm.
and then I even see that there's different scores even within those. Do you know which, like this, do you know which score maybe M&T Bank uses, or is there just a general one that they use? It's been that part has been confusing.
Yeah. So there are 3 different credit bureaus. So TransUnion, Experian, and Equifax, right? And they're different because different companies that you're paying report to different ones. They don't all report to the same 3 credit bureaus. Maybe they report to 2 of the 3. Maybe they report to 1 of the 3. You know what I mean? Do you know which one we use? I want to say Equifax.
Which one do we use? Equifax.
Yeah. So M&T Bank uses
Wait,
Equifax.
no, we use Experience.
We don't know.
We use Experience. Sorry, I worked for 3 banks, so I get them a little confused.
And we've always worked together at them.
Yes, except for one.
Kind of funny.
We digress there.
We do digress.
So TransUnion, one thing I always like to share, TransUnion is actually local. TransUnion is out of Westchester area. So I always find when I'm kind of a little bit anal retentive about my credit. So every time that I'm looking at my credit reports, TransUnion is always the lowest for me.
So it's the most conservative.
But it's not. It's because more people, because we're in Pennsylvania, actually report, believe it or not. So it's more detailed because it's from Pennsylvania, is what I've found out, or what I've heard. Is it all fact? Who knows? But yeah, every bank uses a little bit different score. Mortgage takes all 3 of them. Right, Corey? Is this what you were going to add?
No, I was gonna, you finish your thought.
Okay. So Corey used to be in our mortgage team, so he used to be part of that, which is why I was saying that. But mortgage actually takes all 3 of them together and kind of gets a combined score and an average, yeah. Go ahead, Corey.
So yeah, mortgages uses the middle score of all 3 from the bureaus. Who uses, Credit Karma? Does anybody here use Credit Karma? All right. Credit Karma is a great resource to use for monitoring credit. They do not use the same algorithms, mathematics to come up with your credit scores like the 3 bureaus do. So keep that in mind. They sell your information to market you other products and services. They'll always inflate the score. But it's a good way to just keep your eyes on your credit and monitor it. But at the end of the day, the credit scores that we pull are going to be entirely different from Credit Karma and other companies that are similar to Credit Karma.
Thanks, Corey. Madonna?
And when you're pulling, like from a banking standpoint, right, are you looking at the business credit, like through NAVTech, as well as the 3 credit bureaus, or how does that work?
Yeah, so the business actually does have a credit, there's a credit scoring model for businesses as well. So I'm going to answer that 2 ways. Yes, that does matter, but we are more so cash flow lenders. So that means, do you have the capacity to, we're looking at the health of the actual business ability to repay. We do then pull the personal credit along with that. Does that make sense? Of course, this is for you. This is your time.
I know at one point, like mortgages, you can get a mortgage with like a 620 credit score. Is that still the case?
Corey?
Corey, you know more than we do.
Mortgages go as low as 580. Some lenders will allow you to have a 500 credit score, but there's a lot more down payment. So
So is 620 still a decent number?
620 will get you into your like
Oh, thank you. I'm going to. Sure.
If your credit isn't up to par, you know there's different companies that, like, they write letters to the credit bureaus and
So are you talking about like a credit counseling type of agency or like a debt settlement company?
There's different companies that can help you. I've heard, one of my friends, that she actually write letters to the, credit bureaus, and then if they don't respond in a certain amount of time, it'll drop off your credit. Is that?
Oh, for a dispute, like, no, that really doesn't work, but.
For a dispute?
It's different. That means that it's literally not true, right? Like the debt is not correct?
And then they have 30 days to write it. If they don't respond in a certain time, it'll fall off your credit. You can dispute your own. Yeah, that's another dispute. Yeah, we're talking about another dispute.
I'm not really sure about that. Just to be honest, I don't know.
I've never heard that in my life,
Yeah.
honestly. Unless you're literally disputing an actual, like, it says that you owe this and you really don't know that, that's the only way that they're gonna remove that.
How about you could dispute it yourself too?
Yeah, you can dispute it yourself. Absolutely. So when you're saying who's writing those letters? Sorry, this is making me really curious.
Technically, but what I've learned, what I've actually experienced is, if you owe that debt, the next year, they're gonna put it back on your credit. And so, like, my identity was stolen, and so I had like a house and a car in Delaware. I never lived in Delaware, never went to Delaware ever. Now, that.
You better go on vacation to Delaware if you own it.
I was like, well, they should have taken me with them, but.
You sell that property.
And show proof that I never lived there. Where did I live during that time? And I lived in Harrisburg on this street. I had my photo ID, and that actually did come off.
Well, yeah, because it wasn't
It
true.
wasn't true, but
Right.
with those type, you're disputing something that really will longer your credit bill. And that's what they're saying, if you don't respond, but, right, even if they say, you could write this letter if they sell your credit, if they sell your information to another credit agency. But when you go back, even if they don't respond and it drops off, when they do respond, they're gonna put that back on your credit. You know,
Yeah, I couldn't really be sure. It's a good question and worth looking into. I'm not sure from our end. One more question? So the question is,
Like as a start, like you're beginning business and you're trying to build your business credit, of course, you're gonna have to pull your personal in collaboration with that.
So the only reason I know this is if you're sitting back there, you can't hear a thing that you guys are saying without the mic.
so go ahead. Ask your question one more time.
So my question is, wow, I am loud.
It's kind of fun, isn't it?
Okay. So what is the best way as a new business to build your business credit?
A business credit card.
But wait a minute now.
Okay, all right. Wait a minute.
That might not be the best way, especially because your personal credit will be affected by that credit card. So that's why I said, wait a minute.
That's exactly right.
But what if you cannot get the business credit card because of your personal credit?
So you're hitting on the point exactly. They kind of go hand in hand.
So what's the best way?
Okay.
Personal credit.
Right.
Your business is you.
Yeah,
And I'm
okay.
sorry.
Well, most of the time, again, whether you're doing a business loan, whether you're doing a business credit card, remember we're going back to you. You know what I mean?
Okay, wait. Going back, okay, at what point do you stop using your personal credit?
When they are expenses for the business. So here, let me kind of frame this out for you, okay? A lot of times when you're starting a business, you're right, there's not a lot of business credit there, there's no track record, so a lot of lenders or credit card companies are gonna say, no, we're not going to issue you credit right now because we don't know that you have the ability to repay.
Right.
Right? So a lot of times entrepreneurs will invest their own cash or they will expense something on their own credit card or take out a loan in their own name, but you keep record of all of that because 2 years from now, when you actually have a track record of your business success, then you're able to refinance that out and or pay it off with your business. Basically rewrite it into the business.
Okay,
Yeah.
wait, one more question.
Sure.
preface, we're gonna have another session that's on credit too, so don't feel like you need to ask everything right now.
Okay.
Just so you guys know, so I didn't want you to.
Okay, would it be wise for someone, this is just me spitballing here, add your business as an authorized user on your personal credit card? Is that possible? Okay, anyway.
Sort of.
Oh, okay, keep going.
How could you add, you can't add it.
Well, I'm thinking
Authorized
of like
user.
guarantors and things like that, but I feel like that might be a little too complex. So there is a
Okay.
there's a way, and probably a good question for one-off if you're talking to a banker or something.
Right.
They can give you some thoughts on that because it's just a little bit more complex of an answer.
But it's a
that
great
we have
idea,
time for.
right?
Yeah.
Maybe?
Yeah. In the right circumstances, it's a great idea.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. We good? We're just going to wrap up here. The last slide I have for you is the 6 C's of credit. So I told you that there are 5 C's of credit typically, but I'm going to give you a 6th because I'm just a nice guy. All right, so the 5 C's of credit. Collateral. Collateral, we're looking for an asset. An asset is something that you, a little louder now, own. An asset is something that you own. So if you own something, then you have the ability to use that as collateral. Has anybody ever heard of a home equity loan? You're using your home as collateral. Anybody have a vehicle loan? Guess what the collateral for your vehicle loan is? Your car. Yeah. So, those are oftentimes, the lender is interested to know what your collateral is because then we have less risk to give you that money because we know that if it doesn't work out, there's a way that we can get repaid. So if it doesn't work out that you're able to pay that car, then the bank has the ability to take the car and sell it themselves.
Do banks loan cars or houses?
No. So it's not something that it's a last resort kind of thing, but at least there's some security to get you where you're going with credit. Conditions. So things that we look at for conditions, the purpose of the loan. So if you came to me and you said, well, Michael, I want a business loan because I just want to take my grandma to Disney World. She's never been there and she'd like to go sometime. So I'd like a business loan for that. The bank's going to say, well, I'm sorry, but that's not necessarily going to be a good use of funds for your business to help you grow and develop. So maybe you can find another way to get Granny down to Disney World. Unless you're a travel agent. Good thought. But market and economic conditions. So let me just give you a quick example on this, okay? Investment real estate. Think about an apartment building. Think about those big complexes out there, office spaces. So during COVID, we discovered that a lot of us can work from home and we don't all need to pile into an office. Those office buildings are paid, the loans on those office buildings are paid by the lease payments of the people occupying those spaces, those businesses. So if nobody's occupying those spaces, then there's no lease money coming in, and those places now sit vacant. So the bank has made a decision, we're going to be really careful when we're doing loans to office buildings. That's a market condition. Okay, so those things impact what kind of lending we would be willing to do. Capacity, measures of your cash flow and your ability to repay the loan. Assess the borrower's debt to income ratio. Where do you think of what we talked about tonight, you might be able to find information on that for your business? There were 2 financial statements we discussed tonight. Which one do you think? Income statement. Yep, we can get that information from the income statement. Capital. The cash the borrower is willing to invest. It indicates the borrower's level of seriousness. Again, Lorena told you a couple minutes ago about having skin in the game. The lender wants to know you got some skin in the game. You're not just coming to the bank. So let's use the mortgage, for example. A lot of times, if the house is $100,000, the bank is not going to typically give you just a flat $100,000. They're going to say, we want you to put some skin in the game. Typically, that's like 20% down. Has anybody ever heard that before? If you want to go buy a house, you got to put 20% down. That's generally the case. That's your skin in the game. That's your capital that you're investing into your house. It works the same for a business. Okay? Character. That's where the credit that we were just discussing, the credit score, the credit payment history, your utilization of credit, and your responsible use of that, that's where the character comes into play. And then finally, the one off to the left there, the competency. So sometimes we're approached by somebody who says, hey, Lorena, I have been a waiter all my life, but now I want to open up a veterinary practice. I've been serving at the Olive Garden, which, by the way, is a wonderful thing to do, so I'm not disrespecting that at all. But my point is, it's a different industry. I've been in the restaurant industry as a server for the last 10 years, but now I heard that there's so many great things happening with veterinarian in the veterinarian industry, and I want to go start a veterinarian practice. So that's what we're talking about, competency. Do you think that person's going to know much about running a veterinary practice? Maybe customer service. What's that?
It was just a joke. I was just saying, the only way is unless they gave up being a vet to be a server.
Yeah, right? Yeah. Maybe they're just going back home.
Yeah, that's completely right, one side to the other. Obviously, you need medical training. I literally had a customer, I have to share, a customer that owned a home health care business for 5 years, and he decided that he was going to open a trucking company. Does one have anything to do with the other? Not really. I mean, when I say without practice, right, home health care, you just need a certificate. But, you know, he was literally, and guess what, guys? He got approved by the SBA. Do you know why?
Because he had experience running a business?
A little bit, yeah, right? So he had success running his home health care, but what else did he have?
Money.
Yeah. His personal credit was very strong. Wasn't a big loan, 50,000, but it's 50,000.
The idea, though, is that, you know, we want to know that, you know, you kind of know what you're doing. So if we're going to give you some money, then maybe you know what you're doing if you're going to be a veterinarian or whatever.
I'm going to go
You have competency. Yeah, you should. You should. You'd be so good at it. All right, friends, thank you very much for being with us tonight. If you like the Small Business Lab presented by M&T Bank and Harrisburg University, would you just give a clap?
Thank you, Michael. Thanks so much. Everyone, I'm thinking that I will be sending you the information for the pitch. I'm hoping to have it ASAP tomorrow. Kind of out of my control how I get it. But as soon as I get it, I will forward it on to you guys. If there's any questions, please let me know. Natalie shared with you those questions. I kind of gave you 2 sets. And the reason that I gave you 2 sets is one is literally the judge's criteria. The other one is the questions that you want to answer. Keep in mind, make sure you answer the questions of the pitch. Believe it or not, people miss it. It blows my mind sometimes. I'm literally giving it to you so you know exactly what to expect. Go ahead, hon. Say that.
The slides from the gentleman that just left.
Did he say that he was going to share them with you? I'll send them to all of you guys. I'll send them all to you guys. I have his presentation. In fact, I'll probably do that tonight so you have it. Okay? Anything else you guys can think of? Sorry we ran a little bit long tonight. I apologize. It was good information. You guys needed the information. The other thing is the food was late. Thank you for sticking with us. And everyone give Michael a round of applause. How about that? Thanks, guys. I was just like, it's kind of to like clean everything up that the tech did. And he's like, how are you guys going to be a couple of weeks? Because he's making good points for himself. And I'm like, oh, well, go ahead, enjoy. Oh my God, it was night and day. I mean, when I say night and day, Bye, dear. Thank you. You look smilier now.
Oh, so the link that you always put in here, is that's the same link every time?
It is the same link every time, right?
For the
Okay.
election?
Thanks, honey. Thank you, dear. Have a good night.
You too.
Sorry. That ran late, freaking late, but yeah. You know I don't
I mean,
control.
you do a lot, but you didn't make, it wasn't your responsibility to make the
I
sandwiches
know,
and
but
drive
you
them.
know that it kind of falls on me, right? Listen, next week our food will be on time, right? She's catering, Jamal.
Listen, Jamal, be ready, bring something. Bring your own take home stuff. Actually, I was gonna. Bring your own.
Do something personal. Sure. I have a ministry in nursing homes. I give them a word, or we'll do Bible study and do praise and worship. I'll ask for any songs or praise and worship. This individual help me. Is there any group that you know that would might want to help with that, or even some young people that sing or that? You do?
So you're talking about on a regular basis or just
The one I go to regularly is just once a month. But some people, they ask me to come more often because I don't have anyone to help. So that's why I always just come along with me. But right now it's just once a month.
So what do you do there when you do it?
Well, I did have this because they're seniors. So I had this big felt board and I would like the different biblical stories. I had the felt board and teach them. And then sometimes I'll have a word for them and I'll give it to them and then there'll be music. And it's a really nice sized group though, and they love it because it's been up until this point like more so Catholics, but there's so many different religions and I don't it's more non-denominational. So other they're like, I'm not Catholic, so they don't go, but they want to go to church. So that's why I'm just trying.
So where is it?
In Middletown, Oak Hill Village.
Okay. Well, I'll give you my card, and then I can help you with that kind of thing, or if I can maybe introduce you to some different people who do that kind of thing, or I can help you do it.
Okay.
If you want.
Okay. One thing that we done is Dunn's anything to your credit.
Dunn's and Bradstreet?
Yeah.
That's a business scoring agency.
Okay. Is it something you need to be focused on, or what your number is, or?
Not really.
Oh, okay.
Not really. I mean, it's nothing that's gonna be unhelpful, but it depends on what you're trying to do. Honestly, So, for example, I just did a $5 million loan for a company, and we discussed Dunn's Bradstreet not at all.
Oh.
Not my underwriting team, not me, not my borrower.
It used to be. So like when I first started in like lending for businesses, DMB was like everything.
Right.
Not anymore.
No?
Kind of weird.
Okay.
But let us know if you have any other questions or thoughts or whatever.